my name is Miss Edwards, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about A-level English language, which we offer here at Beckfoot Oakbank School. A-level English language is an absolutely fascinating subject, but it's quite different to the English language that you've studied at GCSE, and so we'd like to just explain that a little bit to you in this video, and hopefully give you a sense, a bit of a flavour of the kinds of things that you might study on the course, and why it's such an interesting course to study. I teach the course along with Miss Furnable, and Miss Furnable is going to talk to you now about what you might study for Paper 1 English language.
Okay, so on Paper 1, the first topic that we study is meanings and representations. So we're looking at how texts use language to create different meanings and representations. So this is quite a nice one, kind of following on from GCSE, because if you've kind of got strong language analysis skills, these can really be put into practice here. We look really deeply at language and how a text producer has used that language really cleverly to kind of create different meanings and messages and how they're conveyed to a reader. It's really interesting because when we're talking about texts, we're thinking about a whole range of texts. So you start to really realise how language is all around us. So it could be like a magazine article, it could be an advertisement, it could be even like an extract from a chat room. And we're thinking about what is being represented and how is it being represented. So to give you an example, some of the things we've looked at recently is how is the footballer Marcus Rashford represented in the media. We might look at things like how is Meghan Markle conveyed differently to Kate Middleton, for example. And then some of the texts are really modern, some of them are quite old, going back hundreds of years, so that gives us the opportunity to look at kind of language and how it's changed over time. And if you're if you're an individual who's really interested in the world around you and kind of contextual issues such as class and race and gender, it's a really good opportunity to think about those issues and how are they kind of dealt with and kind of discussed through the language that is used in different texts. So if you're quite a critical thinker, if you're good at analytical writing and analysing language, then this is a really good topic for you. And then the second topic on Language Paper 1 is a really interesting one, and that's child language development. So it's really fascinating because we think about how do babies and children kind of navigate and make sense of this really difficult world of language that they're born into. So how do they go from being a baby who knows no language at all to suddenly learning their first words or learning sentences and going on to having kind of full-blown conversations. We look at things like how are children and babies influenced by environmental factors. So is it their kind of interactions with parents and caregivers that allows them to develop language, or is it something biological, so something innate in children which allows them to develop language, or is it something kind of in the middle? So if you're a student who thinks you might also be interested in kind of like psychology, there's quite a few crossovers there, thinking about the key theorists and how they explain child language development. And we also look at how children kind of develop their literacy skills and writing skills. So it's a really interesting topic. So that's Paper 1, and now Miss Edwards will speak to you about Paper 2.
So Paper 2 for the English language course is all about two key ideas. It's about language diversity, and diversity is to do with the fact that there's lots and lots of different versions of English that exist. Not just one standard English, but lots of varieties of English, and language change. So for this topic, we very much take an approach to studying English language that's really different to GCSE. So we study topics like, for example, accent and dialect. We look at varieties of English that exist across the United Kingdom. We look at different ways that people speak, for example, in the north of England versus the south of England. And then we start to interrogate that even further. How does that link, for example, to people's social class? How does it link to their gender? Does that make a difference to the way that people use language? And you're hopefully getting the sense that English language A-level is not just about studying written texts, it's also about looking at spoken language, conversation. If you're the kind of person when you're walking down the street and you hear people kind of talking to each other and you start eavesdropping at the way that their conversation works, you might be the kind of person who might find this course quite interesting. So language diversity is part of what you'll study for paper 2, and like I say, we look at accent, dialect, social class, gender. We also look at language and occupation, the fact that the job that you do might make a difference to the language that you use. We look at the impact that technology has on language use. And then the second big topic for paper 2 is language change, because as English language students we look at the idea that English language that we use today isn't the same as the English language that would have been used in Shakespeare's time, and it's not the same that would have been used in Chaucer's time, and it's not the same going right back to the kind of English that we would have seen the Anglo-Saxons using right at the birth of the English language as we know it. And so English language is a developing and a changing thing, and we study it as a changing and evolving language. We do look at that historically, so we look at the ways in which it has changed over time, what's changed about it, what words exist today, for example, that didn't exist 100 years ago. So some big words in the news at the moment, words like lockdown, furlough, COVID. These words didn't exist last year. Well, lockdown did, furlough did, but it wasn't big on people's agenda. COVID didn't exist. So new words are being developed in our language all the time, and language change as a topic, we look at that issue. We look at how language is constantly evolving. And then we also look at modern change, how the language continues to change, continues to grow. So English language is very much a subject to do with your interest, your intrigue into the English language as a varied language and as a language that continues to change. The second part of paper 2 is all to do with attitudes towards language use. Some people have what we call quite a prescriptivist attitude towards language use. They think that there's a right way and a wrong way of talking and writing, and that anything outside of that is wrong and should be corrected. We challenge that in English Language A-Level. We talk about the idea that lots and lots of different Englishes exist for a reason, and we very much investigate the reasons why people talk and write differently in different situations. So that's paper 2. The third thing you'll get to do as part of your course is you'll get to do 2 NEAs, two pieces of coursework. The first piece is a piece of original writing. So if you're someone who likes original writing, creative writing, then there is an aspect of that on the course. You will get to do a piece of your own creative writing. And then the second piece of coursework is a language investigation, which is where you get to choose your own topic and research a little bit deeper and a little bit more independently into an aspect of the course that has interested you. So there's so much about this course that it's absolutely brilliant. Like Miss Furnival said, it has overlaps with subjects you might not have thought it overlaps with. It overlaps with psychology, it overlaps with sociology, it overlaps with history. So it's very, very different to the English language you will have studied at GCSE, and it's a really interesting and varied course. There's lots of variety in the things that we study. So, Miss Furnival, what would you say would be the ideal A-level English language student?
So I think someone who is just really interested in the world that we live in, so someone who wants to question, possibly challenge, kind of dissect the language that surrounds us, someone who's very aware and is interested in like social issues because they kind of run throughout the course, and someone who is a critical thinker really. If you've got great analytical skills and communication skills, if you want to develop those skills, then this is definitely the course for you. It's really interesting.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. So if you want to find out more, you can come and speak to me, Miss Edwards, you can come and speak to Miss Furnival, you can also speak to Miss Brooke and Miss Kirk, who are also teaching on the course. So hopefully you'll think about studying A-level English language.